What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about my 6 favorite moments in Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. Obviously, this is in celebration of Legacy of Thieves Collection, which is now out, obviously out a couple days ago, and it got me thinking of just how amazing Uncharted 4 is, right? I absolutely adore this game. I've said it before, this game is my favorite game of all time. Uncharted is my favorite franchise of all time. Uncharted 4 is my favorite game of all time. One day, I'm sure it'll be passed, maybe not, but let's go into these. These are in no particular order. This is not necessarily a ranking. These are just the first things that came to mind. Number 1 is the tower collapse, the clock tower collapse sequence. I remember playing this. So I remember playing pretty much all of this game very vividly the very first time I played it when the game came out. And to me, you know, obviously Uncharted is known for the big set pieces, and there are some gigantic set pieces in Uncharted 4, and they're not even so much of the way the set pieces were in the past games, or like the burning chateau or the cruise line in Uncharted 3, or the train, let's say, in Uncharted 2. I wouldn't say they're in the exact same mold as the other ones, but this one kind of was. This specific sequence of the tower being destroyed and you having to kind of run as it falls apart around you was very reminiscent, in my opinion, of the past games, but taking it up to a new notch. I mean, this was that classic, again, kind of Uncharted scripted sequence, while kind of not being scripted, right? Because you have to constantly be moving, and it does it with the new technology of the time, back with the PS4, right? And just seeing everything collapse, and it's obviously a huge area that you can see, like a distance, right, out there. So good, so good. I remember it very vividly, easily one of the standout moments of the game. Second one that came to mind was Crash. Now, the entire sequence of Nate and Elena at that house is very special, and actually the attic one is a separate, you know, point on my list that we'll talk about in a second. But the Crash scene was just, I mean, I guess maybe you'd have to be there. It doesn't hold up, or it doesn't obviously invoke the same emotions right now as it would have back then. But again, the entire conversation of them just talking, you know, Elena asking Nate, you know, if he's happy and stuff. I mean, that's a phenomenal. It's a phenomenal cutscene, and it's so great to see those characters together, because that's really the first time you see them bonding and they've settled into normal life, right? So that entire thing is just so good. And then you get to the game, and you could kind of tell, you could kind of like feel it coming, and then when she passes, you know, the controller to Nate, you're like, Jesus Christ, we're playing Crash Bandicoot. And again, I mean, maybe just being back there, right? This was before Crash had come back, you know what I mean? This was before that era, and it was so special to see that, and just I guess the logistics of it, right? With how, like, how does Naughty? I think there's been some stories of like Sean Layden and stuff, and obviously Uncharted or Naughty Dog played a key part of that. Just like how you get that to happen, because they didn't own the rights. Activision owns the rights, right? So to get that to actually happen, and you to play that game, and you're trying to get the highest score, and then eventually to do it, you know, at the end of the game as well with their daughter, phenomenal. I mean, just so special. Easily one of the most classic kind of moments in that game. Following right up, we'll talk about the attic scene. That's my number 3 thing. Again, not in an order, but just the third thing I thought of. This is one that very, again, easily stands out whenever I think to this game. This was actually a level that I would go back, right? I don't actually do like chapter select in almost any game, or even if I do it in a game, I maybe only do it once. This was one that I did multiple times just to make sure I didn't miss anything, because obviously, right, this again compounds with just how special that kind of retirement phase of Nate's life was, where he misses it, and you kind of you know, I guess, go through the past, or you get to see the things that you've done and the relics that you've kind of taken back, and then also character moments too. The one with Chloe too, when he says like maybe in another life, you know, in another life, Chloe. I mean, that actually right now talking, I wish I could show you, that gives me chills. It does. It gives me chills of just how special. Because obviously Chloe not being in 4 was actually very disappointing, but it shows how amazing of a character she is, because, you know, you read that, you know, you have that entry from her, and then Nate kind of, you know, thinks to her, and it's like, you know, you could feel that relationship. You can feel it, and that's just one part of it, obviously. There were even like the tie-ins to Golden Abyss, which was very neat. The first time really they've ever done anything like that to connect Golden Abyss, or to, I guess, reference it, right? So, and then, you know, that was the walking down memory lane part. And then, like, you know, when he gets back into the action and he's firing his gun, quote unquote, right? I mean, it's clever. It's very clever. You could have very easily imagined Nate doing that almost to, like, keep sane, right? Because he misses it. And again, that really, the Elena cutscene that follows, the crash stuff, all of that stuff, really just solidifies, like, you know, he's retired. He loves Elena. He loves her. He's retired, but he misses it. He craves that kind of adventure, and then obviously he goes on the adventure of this game. So those two sequences really have a strong message and a strong, I guess, push for Nate for the rest of the game. Next one is the Convoy Scene. Now, this is the legendary E3 presentation where actually, right, what was it, the controller, something happened where, like, you know, it didn't work, right? Nate wasn't moving. I think it was the controller issue, and I mean, my dear God, I can think back. I remember watching it, that E3 presentation, and just thinking, like, what am I watching? Like, truly, what am I watching? And even when I'm recording this video, I watched a PlayStation Access video talking about reasons to buy, you know, this Legacy of Thieves collection, and one of their reasons was solely the Convoy Scene. They showed it, and obviously I'll show it in this video, and it's just like, can you, like, just really think about that Convoy Scene for a second and be like, how in God's name did that happen? And this was 2016. This was 6 years ago that this game came out. It's incredible how just everything worked, and the detail, and you know, you have the grappling hook, and you're being dragged in the mud, and you can jump on other Jeeps or jump on bikes, and it's on I mean, everything's on rails, but you also have a lot of freedom that you've never really had before. And it starts long before even, like, you're dragged through the mud, right when you're driving with Sully and you're driving, like, downhill. I mean, just think about how insane, you know, there were some story things, and there were some decisions and stuff, and I don't know if necessarily if they continued this franchise with that creative team, I don't know if it would have lost its story and character touch. Maybe it would have. But one thing you cannot, you can't take away from this game is, like, the boundaries that game sequences like this, like the Convoy Scene, did. It literally was never done back 6 years ago, and I would argue that no game has even come relatively close to this even now. Maybe The Last of Us Part 2 in terms of the scope and, like, the freedom and just how, like, Ellie and Abby move and stuff, but I don't know. I still don't even think that matches, you know, Uncharted 4. One special thing for me, or I guess the fifth thing on my list here, is the Nate and Elena sequence later on in the game. So, you know, you see Elena here and there, and obviously there's the kind of the emotional cutscene of when she finds out, like, you know, he's in the field and he was lying to her, and those are all amazing. But I'm talking about when you actually are out and about with Elena. And it's been talked about before, that was very Uncharted 1-like, right? That's where you actually did that the most with Elena, right? 3, she's very limited in 3, and even 2, she's limited, but even the surroundings of literally being in the forests and then going in the tombs and having that more supernatural element was literally, I think, very clearly done on purpose to, you know, resonate your feelings, or I guess bring back the feelings of Uncharted 1, right? So that entire sequence to me was just absolutely beautiful. The music of when you, I believe, first get Elena and you're driving in the Jeep to, like, your destination, before you go through all the puzzles, the music, whatever soundtrack or actual, like, listing that is so good. The music is so freaking good, actually, throughout the entire game, but also here as well. And I just loved it from start to finish. They even do kind of a fake out where it's like, does Elena actually die? It's like, oh my God, like, you're playing with our emotions throughout the entire game, and that was a big part too. So really, from start to finish, when Elena gets introduced and you're being a part of her, it definitely, I would say maybe it's the nostalgia, right? That you're kind of recreating Uncharted 1 again. And again, this is the last time you're going to be able to do this with these characters, so that holds weight too, and you know that, you know what I mean, you can kind of sense that as the game is going on, like, this is it, so you know, this is the last time you're gonna have these memories. And speaking of that, the final thing on my list, in my opinion, I actually would say, I maybe believe this, if I were to rank these, this would probably be the best part, the best thing, and number one on my list is the ending. And the ending, I would say, from when Nate is saying goodbye to Sam and Sully, that's very emotional, because again, you just know, like, this is it. This is the again, I'm getting chills even just talking about it. When he says goodbye to Sully, and Sully echoes the lines of, like, the one more time thing that was in that trailer, the very first, or the first main trailer we got of the game, but it was never in the game itself, where you go through that, where Nate has to call him and say, can you help me like one more time? That's not in the game, but then you get that call back in that scene. So that's a phenomenal scene, and I mean, again, it gives me chills just thinking about it and talking about it. But then you get to, I guess, the epilogue, right? The finale, when you're playing as their daughter and you're playing Crash again, and then you're going around the house, and you're going around, I guess, the property, because they've lived a good life and they own a little bit of land, right? And you just kind of get to take it all in one more time. The music, the Uncharted theme, the main theme of the main menu, is being played in the background, but very quietly. I think mainly on piano, which I just think is so beautiful. I remember stopping when you have to use, you can go into the backyard and on the beach. I remember just stopping with my controller and being like, I don't want this to end. Like, this is it. Now maybe it comes back. I mean, again, like, maybe Nate can come back. I don't necessarily know if I want that, but maybe Nate can come back. Maybe you'll play as their daughter, right? Like, possibly. But at the time, and even now, I mean, it has been 6 years, so it has been a very long time since, obviously, they've done anything new. That was it with these characters, and just that kind of feeling of, this is the last time we get to do this together. You know what I mean? It's very emotional. The last time we get to do this together. So just the music, again, the main theme being played, you kind of exploring and just like looking at these memories that they have made in this time period in between the game. The game ends, then obviously, okay, what are they like? 10, 12, 13 years later, like, what's it like? Like, Sully is retired, and he kind of comes and goes, which he should, because at that point he'd be like 80 plus, right? So it's just so great. And then when Nate and Elena, walk in, and she kind of, their daughter, figures it all out, and then they have to tell her and be like, we didn't really want to, or at least not yet. And then Nate kind of walks her outside, and it's so, in my opinion, beautiful that the last thing you ever hear Nate and Elena, saying, or even just Nate saying, right? The last thing is them describing the first time they met, the very first scene, the very beginning of Uncharted 1. I don't know if it's possible to do it better. Again, maybe some story decisions here and there in the main game you could argue could be, improved, but I don't know about ending such a legendary franchise with having them have a daughter and having this time jump, and then telling her about their lives, but starting when they met each other, which was the beginning of the first. I just don't know how that gets beaten, ever. And it's just so emotional with them. It's like, okay, well, they're going to catch her up. They're going to talk about all the adventures that they went on, which was a big aspect of Uncharted 4 in general, is really thinking back to what you've done. Again, thinking about all of these things makes me emotional, makes me sad. It makes me honestly really sad that it's over, because this game just holds such a special place in my heart. Nolan North holds a special place in my heart for being Nathan Drake. So that's my list. Let me know in the comments below any of your favorite moments from Uncharted 4. As always, make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I don't normally do videos like this, but if you guys did like it, well, leave a like and let me know, and I can definitely do more of them in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on tomorrow's video.